What's up? Hope everyone's having a good day and is ready for another video in the series we like to call Underrated Throwers. Today we got Hannis Hopley, former NCAA record holder in the discus with a throw of 67.22, which I think then was broken by Sam Mattis, and then now it's held by Mikolos Alekna, and I doubt that record will ever be beaten ever. I doubt we'll get another 71-meter collegiate thrower. And if we do, that's cool. But I want to give my props to Hannis Hopley, who actually held the record for quite some time. I think Sam Mattis broke it in the early 2010s, and I think Hannis broke it in 2002 to 2004. I forget if he was still in college. This is a throw from him in Athens in 2004 Olympics. I don't know what he threw, like 63 or something here. But I couldn't get a good angle on a 67-meter throw. I don't like analyzing stuff from the side very much in terms of video form. But I just want to give him his props. He's from South Africa. He's, I think, a two or three time. I know he's a two-time NCAA champion in the discus. I don't know if he's a three-time. I tried to research it. Not very much came up. Sorry. But in the video description, I'll link his personal best, height, weight, if I can find it. And notable accomplishments. I'm pretty sure he's tall, but he doesn't look very big. But I could be wrong. But I think he is around 6'6" or something. I don't know. I'll link that in the video description. I'm gonna guess. But yeah. So I just felt like he's underrated because I don't think a lot of people know who Hannis Hopley is, because he didn't really do very much internationally besides making the Olympic final. But I mean, besides that, I think he won a couple African championships, and he won the World Junior Championships as well. But yeah. But I think he actually has very good technique. Well, obviously because he threw 67 meters. But I think he has very simple technique, and I think his technique was very ahead of the time. In terms of when this throw was. I think people were starting to figure out don't jump at the finish. And I think Vergilis Alekna is really the pioneer of that in terms of the modern day style, because a lot of people, really I give credit to Wolfgang Schmidt for that, but Vergilis Alekna I feel was a big part of that, because before this, non-reversers really dominated. You got Jürgen Schult, Lars Riedel, two non-reversers. And then Vergilis Alekna came on the scene and just dominated. So, but let's analyze it. So first, let's just watch this full speed. So very simple. Honestly, throws a little bit like a shot putter in many ways. I know he threw shot. I don't know how far. I'll maybe put that in the video description if I can find it. I know the furthest I saw on a quick glance, 17 meters, but I think that was when he was a junior. Which, 17 meters is not bad at all. That's cool. But compared to his discus, it's not really that much. But I'm pretty sure he might have thrown further. Or he just stopped throwing discus in college. Stopped throwing shot put in college just because he was doing so well on disc. Which might be a better thing, But, whatever. So, let's analyze this. So, he keeps this left arm super in. The one thing I don't really like is this wind. I personally like the higher wind because it allows for greater stretch in the chest. But to each his own. I don't know. I feel like he just doesn't get a lot of stretch here. This back view is kind of reminiscent of Matthew Denny in many ways. The more I look at it, I haven't actually analyzed, sat down and actually really broke down Hannis Hopley's throw, but I've always loved it. I think this is a great style if you're gonna duel as a shot and discus thrower. Um, because this will transfer really well to the shot put and won't mess up your timing very much in the shot put. And obviously you can throw far with it in discus as well. But I mean, to each his own. That's just my personal belief. Because I don't believe you'll throw 70 meters with this style of technique in discus, but you can throw pretty far. 67 meters is nothing to complain about. Not very many people in history have thrown over 67 meters. So let's go out the back. So he keeps his left arm really in. That's okay. I don't mind that. People throw far with swinging it out. Some people throw far with keeping it in. So it doesn't really matter. I personally like the swinging out. The only times I don't is if I have an athlete that has a really bad problem pulling and going way too fast. Then I try and keep it in. Or have athletes have a problem with rushing with their upper body. But I personally believe that I like that the left arm should go swing out, just because it allows you to rotate a lot easier out the back. Now the only danger is you gotta hold your chest to the middle, or else you're gonna blow out the back and lose all your separation, and you just lose your forward direction of the throw. But if you can do that, I personally like that. But this is fine too. I think it's a little too much, but yeah, I really like what he does here. So he starts pretty close. He's kind of offset to this way, kind of like John Powell, except John Powell's a little more like over here around. So for this kind of style where you don't really get a wide sweep and you don't really work like wide, you work very short, get fast to the ground, get to the ground really fast. I personally like this offset because there's really no need to start in the middle, because if anything, it'll just slow you down. The whole kind of purpose of this kind of style is just get to the ground, get to the finish as fast as humanly possible, and then just slam the finish. Alright, and I mean, that really works for shot put, and that does work to a certain extent in disc, if you have the patience. The only downside is, in this kind of style for discus, is if you do not have a patient finish and a patient upper body, you're just going to pull all the time. You're just going to throw into the cage all the time. You're not going to get a lot of power into it. But Hannis Hopley is a great example of how to use this kind of style. The short, tight style. I don't really have a name for it, but I guess short and tight sounds kind of weird. But whatever. We'll roll with it for now. So, really like this, because normally I like this right foot to go out and around, but it still goes out a little, but it doesn't really go that wide. But I mean, for this style, it doesn't really need to, Like, he still sweeps very well. Like, he still has his groin to the back. Oh my god, his groin to facing the sector, which I like because it creates a lot of angular or rotational momentum. I love, one of the really big things I like is his orbit here. He kind of throws a lot like Peter Malachowski in many ways, or the kind of Polish style like a Robert Ubernek or Peter Malachowski. Just really tight feet, tight hips, tight to the ground. Doesn't get really like a big high point, but like still gets a high point, but not that exaggerated, and then just slams the finish super long. That's actually very reminiscent of Peter Malachowski. But really like this. Oh, I forgot to mention. So this is really good pickup point. He gets really exaggerated. So he kind of does like what kind of a little bit like Sarah Minton. Like, he just kind of holds this, and then the only thing that moves is his left knee. He just goes bump, and then goes, and then picks up. And for this kind of style, I personally like that. Most men are not flexible enough to do that, but if you can, I believe that's a very good way to get out the back. because especially if you're gonna do the style that keeps your left arm inside your knees and inside your left side. I really like that because it allows you to get your legs really far ahead of you and creates a tremendous stretch in your groin and your hip, like really quick, like a fast twitch muscle. All right, like so he gets like a fast twitch kind of experience out the back instead of a long turn out the back. All right, so he gets here and really wide with his knee, with his left knee, gets a big turn. So his foot is, if this will stop moving, there. So his foot is pointed that way just as his right foot picks up. So he gets a tremendous stretch here. So really good here. I like this higher left arm because as he drops, the higher left arm will just turn into a level left arm. And I believe that makes him hold a more upright chest in the middle and allows him not to collapse and hold tension into the middle. So he does a good job of that. Really nice. I really like this push he gets out the back with his left foot. And this bent arm, I know a lot of people don't like that. I personally believe that it doesn't really matter at a certain point. And I'll explain why. You know, a lot of people, Lars Riedel, Virgili Selekna, I think Mikolo Selekna too. A lot of throwers throughout history have thrown with a bent left arm in the middle. It's usually taller throwers that do that. And what I mean by taller throwers, like 6'4" plus throwers. That's what I believe is because they do that because, one, it's probably just a natural thing that they do. And because they throw far, their coaches just never really changed it because there's really no need. And two, because they're taller, it allows them to speed up. Whereas if they had a super long left arm, it might slow them down a little and decelerate them a little. So, but tall people also have a longer left arm. So I'm more inclined to believe that it's more of just a personal thing that they've done, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So it could be one of those two things, but I tend to believe it's the first one that I said. So, but I really like this push he gets. I really like how he's holding this left shoulder to the middle, and he holds his chest very nice. Allows his sweep leg to get super far ahead, so he lands really, really good. Really good here. Would this stop? Thank you. Here, not like kind of bent over a little. Again, this isn't one of his best throws, but this is just a better angle and better quality that I could find of him. Really like where his his right foot is facing, like the shoulder, again, it could be a little higher, but his arm could be a little higher, but I don't really care. But I really like this position. This almost looks like a really nice non-reverse position. But because he didn't land very stacked in the middle, so you see how he's kind of bent here a little, like he's kind of at a weird angle instead of just straight line. He gets this forward tilt a little, so he's off his right foot a little early, but he still does a great job at the finish. And his finish, I think, is probably one of the best I've seen. It's really long, and this is what I'm talking about with I don't mind a bent right arm, okay? The only problem I have with a bent right arm is if you don't get this. So you see how it is long here, but some people throw with like the right arm. Oh my God, sorry, the left arm like this. But if you notice when they do that, and what he's doing right now, even though his is kind of longer, is that he still gets a stretch with his pec and his shoulder. So he's still reaching. Oh my God, stupid phone. He's still reaching out. All right, so he's still getting that. And if you want a perfect example of that, just look at Lars Riedel, and his finish. Because what we don't want is like a little chicken wing where like the arm is just like in, like your elbow's like touching your chest or your side. That's not what we want, because you still want that big stretch, especially in discus. You want that big stretch, you know, in your pec. So, that's very important. So if you see throwers that throw with a bent right arm, just, oh my god, I keep saying that. Sorry, I've been coaching lefties and stuff. Sorry, bent left arm or right arm, I guess. Just pay attention to that, because it might not be a big problem if you break it down, and as long as they have a stretch in their pec, and their left arm is not just loosey goosey, and it's actually doing something. I personally believe it's fine. Throwers have historically done very well with that. So both ways. I'm a big proponent of, if it's not broke, don't fix it. If they throw far and it feels good and it just comes natural to them, why spend time trying to fix it just because you may not like it? Everyone's different. I dare a coach to walk up to Lars Riedel over Gilly Select and just be like, yeah, I don't really like what you're doing. Let's change that. They'll just be like, screw you. I know more than you. So, or just something like that. I don't know. That's what I would personally say if I was in their shoes and a coach said that to me. If I was a 5-time world champ and an Olympic gold medalist and the furthest non-reverser ever in Lars Riedel, and a coach just told me, hey, let's just change a big significant part of your throw, I would just be like, no, I don't think so. It's kind of like the same case with Adam Nelson. Adam Nelson with his left leg, he just did that naturally. So, and his coach was like, well, he throws far doing it, so why change it? And you know what? It ended pretty good for him, And, later in his career, he started to try and change that and get his left foot lower to the ground and try and be a little more traditional. And he didn't throw as far. Now, granted, you could also say that it was because he was older, but he just didn't have that same kind of power and pop at the finish, at least in my opinion. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Hannis Hopley. I get so off track in these videos. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a big nerd. I really love this position right here. All right, his heel and butt and shoulder are all in line with each other, even though that's not a straight line. That's even worse. Whatever. You get that picture. He has an open left foot, which means that his hips have some tension in it. I kind of like the thing, the way you stand out the back. You kind of start a little duck-footed with your toes pointed out a little, not that much, but just a little, and that's because it gets your knees wider and allows for more separation. The same thing in the finish. You want that hip stretch in the front. A lot of coaches tend to train closed toe, or the block foot would be pointed that way. I personally don't like that, because then you have to move. Then you have to turn with both feet to get your hips open, or else they won't open. So that's just added time. Whereas if it already lands kind of open, all you have to do is turn the right foot. So it speeds up your release and allows for easier turning with your right side into the finish. And that goes for shot put and discus. And I think a lot of throwers nowadays are really starting to do that. So I'm a big proponent of that. I don't think that's an individual thing. I think that's just one of the things that everyone should do. I haven't really seen anybody that hasn't really thrown far doing that. Or it's been detrimental in doing that to them. So yeah, but really nice stacked position here. His hip flexor is out here, and he just works out. He really works out. So, but because he didn't land that stacked, he's a little bit this way. He's a little bit leaning forward a little bit. So he doesn't turn the right foot as much as he could have. You see how he kind of just falls that way? So his left foot was here, and then he reverses this way. So he didn't really get everything into the disc. But once again, this was a 62, 63 meter throw or something. It wasn't that far compared to what he's thrown in the compared to his 67-meter throw. In his 67-meter throw, he landed a lot better than this. So, it just shows how important it is to release and get your hip and your foot all the way through the release. But, I mean, it's still not bad. Well, okay, it is bad, but, he still managed to save it a little bit. And I don't mean, saving it, like save the throw. But, it still went pretty decently far. I mean, he made the Olympic final, so whatever. In competition, you're not going to be the most technically sound just because you're not really thinking about technique, or you shouldn't really be. That's why I always say if you want to watch throwers do technical throws, watch them and do practice throws when they're actually working on stuff. All right, that's when usually they're at their best technique, and not at a meet. Usually at a meet, granted, they're still really good technically, obviously, but they're not actually physically working on stuff, or they shouldn't be. By the time you're at a meet, you should be ready to go and not having to worry about things you're doing. But that's a different topic for a different video. But yeah, so this isn't the most technically sound throw he's ever had, but it was just the best quality and the best angle I could find of him throwing. But I hope you guys get the picture of what he does. But really nice block as well. And I really like this little reach he gets, kind of like a Peter Malachowski or a Daniel Stahl. So he's leaning a little bit this way, which I like. I just wish he was a little more on balance and turned all the way. So you see how he kind of, he's in a position. I could tell he really wants to turn through the finish. And then because he leans a little this way, he kind of falls a little that way. So you see how he kind of picks up a little early with his right foot and his left foot. So, yeah. So if he just landed a little more upright here, or he wasn't at this angle. See how his knee and his hip is falling a little that way? But yeah, that's just a thing. That's just a little critique I have. But again, I mean, I love his technique. If I had a thrower who threw like this, I would be very happy. I mean, obviously, I would love to coach a 60-plus meter discus thrower. That'd be awesome. But yeah, and the other thing I think he does really well is this right heel or this right ankle. So what he does is he's here. He lands with it pretty low, keeps turning it, and then as his left foot lands, it picks up, kind of like a Joe Kovacs. So it's really high here, and then he just he tries to rotate through. But he's in a really good position. And you notice his right knee does not extend. It just rotates through the finish. All right? And he keeps a really nice block. All right? So even though he's off the ground, this honestly kind of looks like a Mac Wilkins kind of block where he's here and he's off the ground. But, I mean, by the time he's off the ground, the discus is pretty much out of his hand. And then he holds that block for an extra frame and then goes. And then into his reverse. So it's really important that he still holds that block and does a non-reverse reverse. So he just non-reverses and then just keeps rotating into a reverse. All right. So overall, really like his throw. I think it's very nice. Good acceleration, good separation, and a really solid finish. So, yeah. Overall, not bad. Again, I'll link his personal best, height, weight, if I can find them, and notable accomplishments in the video description. Hope you guys learned something, and see y'all next time.